what? I get to get up every single day and work with my family and create something new every time that we get together. And the creation of all the content, like everybody calls it now, it's joyful at this point. It's a lot of work.
You're waiting for your show to do it, I know that, but I'm just gonna say,
well, I get 10%.
yes,
so.
I know. So I don't blame you. Like, I wait for my show to do.
For years, people have been arguing over Kris Jenner. Some people swear she's an absolute marketing genius. Other people think she's just really good at making money off literally every relationship and every bit of drama that comes her way. But whether you love her or not, you have to admit she changed the game. Kris built one of the biggest family empires in Hollywood. She changed her daughters from relatively unknown socialites into global brands worth billions. Let's get into it. Long before the Kardashian empire existed, Kris was already getting a front row seat to how power, money, and status work. Her marriage to Robert Kardashian brought her into a whole new world. Robert was successful, respected, and connected to some very powerful people in Los Angeles. So from the outside, it looked like Kris had landed the dream life. They got married, had 4 kids, Kourtney, Kim, Khloe, and Rob, and everything looked picture perfect. But years later, Kris admitted that even with all that money around her, she didn't always feel powerful because Robert controlled most of the finances. He was the established one and the provider. And according to Kris, that eventually made her realize she didn't have as much control over her own life as people probably assumed. But at the time, that lesson hadn't fully hit her yet. Kris was still caught up in the lifestyle, the comfort, and the image of what she thought she wanted. Then everything came crashing down when she had an affair with soccer player Todd Waterman, something she later called one of the biggest mistakes of her life. During Kris and Robert's marriage, the affair with Todd Waterman became one of the biggest scandals in her personal life. Kris would sometimes bring Waterman around publicly, and some people have even claimed she used Robert's money to help support him. Those allegations have never been proven, but they have continued to follow her for decades.
I think being really young and dumb is something that plays into it because you don't really understand the consequences of your actions.
But what was my
Appreciate
dad
the
not doing
consequences.
that made you want to look elsewhere?
I don't know, because he was such a great husband and such a great dad, and I think that I fell into a situation where I thought that the grass was greener somewhere else.
Not long after that, Kris met Caitlyn Jenner, who at the time was still known publicly as Bruce Jenner. Kris dated Olympic legend Bruce Jenner from 1990, married in 1991. To Kris, this probably looked like another chance to build the kind of secure life she wanted. A new marriage, a famous name, and a future that seemed much more stable. And together, they had 2 daughters, Kendall and Kylie. They later divorced in 2015 after 24 years. Their split reportedly left Kris with about $40 million in assets, the family mansion, luxury cars, and empire leverage from the KUWTK show. But during this chapter of Kris's life, something happened that completely changed the way she looked at money, power, and being attached to famous people. The O.J. Simpson trial. The tragedy hit really close to home for Kris. Nicole Brown Simpson wasn't just some celebrity name being talked about on TV. She was Kris's friend, one of her closest friends.
Nicole Brown Simpson was one of my best friends.
And at the time, Robert Kardashian was suddenly right in the middle of the whole legal storm because he became part of O.J. Simpson's defense team. Kris and Robert were basically standing on opposite sides of one of the most heartbreaking cases in Hollywood history. Robert was standing beside O.J., while Kris was grieving Nicole and publicly showing support for Nicole's family. Years later, Kris talked about how devastated she felt as more details came out about Nicole's relationship and the she had allegedly gone through.
I didn't know that there till we heard and saw it, the whole thing unfold like everybody else, and then heard the 911 tapes that had been, many of them, which were going to be used as evidence in the trial.
I can't believe that she was your friend and she didn't
I know.
say to you, I'm in trouble and I need to get away from this guy.
Me and some of her other close friends all were really surprised and shocked by that because we felt like we really failed her as a friend. You go through this and you discover things about somebody, and it was horrible. Although, she and I were supposed to have lunch the next day, the day after she was murdered, and she said she wanted to show me some things and talk about what was in her safe. And so now, unfortunately, it all makes sense that that's probably what she wanted to reveal to me that next day, which broke my heart because I always feel horrible that I didn't pay enough attention.
And the whole experience seemed to change something in Kris. It made her look at power differently. She really started to understand what it meant to depend on someone else's money, name, influence, and status. She later reflected on how she had spent years leaning on powerful men while not really having much power of her own. And that became a major turning point. She didn't just want to marry successful people anymore. She wanted to become successful herself. More than that, she wanted to make sure she never felt powerless again. So Kris started paying attention. She looked around Hollywood and noticed the entertainment world was changing. Traditional celebrities weren't the only ones making serious money anymore. A new kind of fame was starting to take over, reality TV, and Paris Hilton was one of the biggest examples. Paris wasn't famous because she had an Oscar or because she had some huge #1 album. People were watching her because they were interested in her life. They wanted to know where she was shopping, who she was dating, what she was wearing, what she was eating, and who she was hanging around. And advertisers loved it because fans didn't just watch Paris, they felt connected to her. That's when Kris started seeing where Hollywood was headed. It wasn't just about selling talent anymore, it was about selling access. At first, Kim became the family's way into that world. Through her friendship with Paris Hilton, Kim started showing up in tabloids and celebrity magazines. She wasn't a huge star yet, but she was being seen. And back then, just being seen was starting to become a form of currency. But one of the biggest controversies Kris was involved in when it came to monetizing her children was when she was accused of leaking her daughter Kim's explicit tape. In 2002, Kim and her then boyfriend Ray J filmed themselves during a holiday in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. A few years later, around the time Keeping Up with the Kardashians was airing, a tape was leaked to the public. At the time, Kris denied the claims of leaking the tape. However, fans believed that the leak was orchestrated by her as a way to gain more fame and attention for the family.
Kim, release a tape.
It's okay. No.
True. Of course it's true!
Depending on who you ask, Kris is either an incredibly devoted mother who did everything she could to build a future for her children, or someone who blurred the line between protecting her family and profiting from them. People have often accused her of turning even the most personal moments into business opportunities. Whether it was relationships, family conflicts, or private struggles, they believe very little was considered off limits if it could keep the family relevant. While a lot of parents probably looked at celebrity culture and thought it was shallow or just another trend, Kris looked at it like a business. She realized people were becoming obsessed with celebrities they felt like they actually knew. They wanted to see what happened behind closed doors. They wanted family drama, relationships, arguments, makeups, breakups. Basically, they wanted to feel invested in these people's lives. And somewhere along the way, Kris seems to have had the realization that changed everything. The daughters were going to be the stars. So when the opportunity came to launch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, she was ready. On the surface, it was a show about a family. The family dynamic helped, but the daughters were the reason people kept tuning in. Every episode gave people something new to talk about. And Kris wasn't just creating reality TV stars. She was building brands that could keep making money long after the cameras stopped rolling. Some fans even commented, "Wow, her children are nothing more than mere pawns in her schemes to get rich and famous. Just look at how she treats the one child she has that cannot make her money, Rob." Another fan also commented, "So basically, she was a shallow gold digger that never worked a hand day in her life. Got it. She passed those wonderful qualities down to her daughters." But I want to know what you guys think. Do you believe Kris Jenner is just one of the smartest businesswomen Hollywood has ever seen? Or do you think she crossed the line by turning so much of her family's personal life into a business? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I might even pin one of your comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you guys in the next video.